Good evening, everybody. Welcome. I'd like to call to order the Perinton Town Board meeting for April 22nd, 2026. We'll start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. If Miss Sarah Masterson's here, would you mind joining us or leading us?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start with introductions. I'm Jen Townsend, Town Supervisor, and I'll start with my fellow board members. Down at the end, we have Councilman Dave Masterson, Councilwoman Emily Mishler, Councilman Michael Foligno, and Councilwoman Meredith Stockman could not make it tonight. Our town clerk, Andrew Gilchrist, here to my right. And then staff who are participating. We have right down here, we have Kevin Overton, attorney to the town, Director of Finance, Brian Dick. I'm sorry, never mind. Commissioner of Public Works, Jason Kennedy, and Director of Finance, Brian Dick. And then we have our volunteer board coordinator, Chris Mueller, Commissioner of Recreation and Parks, Jeff Nutting, and our Director of Planning, Mike Dozer, and our Director of Volunteer Boards, Lori Stid, an Executive Assistant to the Supervisor, Melissa Martins, and our Town Board Student Representative, Finley Driscoll. If Emily, would you like to give her a little bit of an introduction?
Sure would. Finley Driscoll is joining us. She's a junior at Fairport High School, and this is her first night. She's interested in learning more about our municipality and getting to know the inner workings of government. And we are thrilled to have her and have her voice represented on our board as well. So welcome,
Awesome.
Finley.
Welcome. Having some civic engagement to our youth is really important to us here, so this is great. Also, our town board meetings are recorded and may be transcribed using AI technology. So we'll start off with our meeting minutes. You should have received the meeting minutes from our April 6th town board meeting. If there are no changes or corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve them as submitted.
Second.
Councilman Foligno, Councilwoman Mishler, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that carries. Our audit, you should have received the audit from the Director of Finance. Has the Finance Committee had a chance to review the audit?
I have, and all is in order.
Any discussion? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that carries. Moving on to monthly reports, you should have received reports from the Director of Finance, Director of Buildings and Codes, Tax Receiver, and the Town Clerk for March 2026. If there are no changes, I will accept a motion to approve the reports as they are.
So moved.
Mishler?
Second.
Masterson, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That carries. Okay, volunteer board appointments. First, I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone who applied to serve on our volunteer boards. The level of interest we have seen is really, really encouraging. It speaks to how invested our residents are and the future of Perinton. For any of those who are not able to appoint at this time, please know that we're holding on to folks' resumes so that if a position opens up, we'd like to reach back out if something is available. So your willingness to serve really matters. I'm especially excited tonight because we have appointments that bring most all of our boards to full membership for the first time in a long time. Strong, engaged boards make for better conversations, better recommendations, and ultimately better outcomes for our community. First, I'd like to start with a resignation. We've received a resignation from longtime Historic Architecture Commission member Jim Fasanella. Jim has served on the commission since 1987 and was here when it started. And I want to sincerely thank him for his many years of service to the town of Perinton. At this time, I'll ask the board for a motion to accept Mr. Fasanella's resignation.
So moved.
Masterson? Second?
Second.
Mishler, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that carries.
I just want to thank Mr. Fasanella for his decades of service here in the town and helping guiding in the creation of historic districts and the importance of maintaining the historic structures we do have. Thank you.
Yeah. So for the Historic Architecture Commission, we'll now move on to appointments. To fill the current vacancies, I propose that the board appoint Beverly Overacker as a member of the Historic Architecture Commission with a term to expire June 30th, 2027, and John Lynch as a member of the Historic Architecture Commission with a term to expire June 30th, 2028. Any discussion? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Did you get those?
Mhm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that carries. For the Conservation Board, I'm proposing that this board appoint Christopher Verdona as a member of the Conservation Board with a term to expire June 30th, 2027. Any discussion? Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Mishler?
Second.
Second Masterson, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that carries. To the Zoning Board of Appeals, can I have a motion to appoint Lindsay Latore as a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals with a term to expire June 30th, 2026?
Her term is 1 month or 2 months.
She is filling a position, I believe,
Well,
Lori,
it says
correct?
5 years.
filling a-
Expires 6/30.
She's filling a vacancy.
That was a 5-year term, and then we'll have
Okay,
to
so
reappoint her again.
2 months. Okay,
Yep.
this was making sure I didn't misread that. Thank you.
No, that does sound weird, though. Any discussion? Sorry. None can, okay.
Second.
Polino, Mishler, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that carries. Okay, on to our Sustainability Advisory Board. It is Earth Day, so this is a very special board for us today. I would like to move to this lovely board to appoint some folks to our Sustainability Board. There were several vacancies, including a chairperson. And so I am proposing that we fill these vacancies with Jeff Myers as chair and member of the Sustainability Advisory Board with a term to expire January 31st, 2027. Amber Brown as a member with a 2-year term to expire January 31st, 2028. And James Gilbert as a member with a 1-year term to expire January 31st, 2027. And Adam Files as a member with a 1-year term to expire January 31st, 2027. Is there any discussion?
I just want to say it was really a highlight for me to be able to sit on these interviews, and we have so many talented residents. And these boards would not work if it wasn't for people stepping up to volunteer. So, and it was definitely intentional that we appoint our sustainability board members on Earth Day. I think we felt that this was probably one of the most impactful ways that we could show our dedication towards becoming a more sustainable community. So.
That's great. Is there any discussion? Nope. Any more? Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Mishler, second.
Second.
Masterson, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that carries. Before we move on, I want to recognize and second what Emily said. Having this fully staffed on Earth Day is really meaningful. It doesn't sound like it, but it took a lot to push this through quickly to get it on for today. There's a lot that this board has been doing over the past few months, but it was really meaningful for us. Sustainability work is long-term, collaborative, and deeply connected to the future of our community. And having this full board in place with clear directives strengthens that work and puts us in a great position to build momentum, generate thoughtful ideas, and advance meaningful projects in our town. I'm really excited to see what this group will do together and grateful to each of you who are choosing to step forward. If you don't mind, any of those who are on the sustainability board who are here today, we'd love to invite you guys up to the dais here for a quick photo in recognition of Earth Day. All right. And to meet each other. Should we?
Do you want us down
Hey,
there?
you know what? Here, have them come in behind, I guess. That's a good idea.
That's a good idea. I'll move over.
Yep.
All right.
Just do the stuff.
You don't want to get in?
Hey. Hey, okay.
Hey, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you
We're
very
excited.
much.
We're excited.
Ready? Okay. 1, 2, 3.
More, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Awesome.
Okay, next up, we are adopting public comment guidelines. Included in the meeting materials is a draft set of guidelines intended to provide a clear and consistent framework for public participation at town board meetings, including public hearings and designated public comment periods. Our goal with these guidelines is to ensure that this boardroom is a place for civil discourse where all residents, feel welcome, respected, and heard regardless of their opinion, while also ensuring that our meetings remain orderly, productive, and fair for everyone involved. These proposed guidelines are before the board this evening for review and consideration. Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to say that this is pretty standard. Most municipalities do have a set of printed public guidelines so that everyone's aware of just the opportunity and procedures, just like anything to document it. So that everyone gets a chance to speak. And to be clear, there is no limiting on the number of speakers or anything like that. It's just to make sure that everything is now formalized and documented. We're, reviewing some of the procedures and policies and some things that were just ad hoc or, inertia in legacy just now that everything has been formalized.
Just want to add that it also, I think, gives us the flexibility to extend public comment periods if, there aren't a ton of people here and someone has a lot to say. So
Right.
that is built into this as well.
Yeah, we have discretion.
Yep.
Mhm.
So I think that's great.
Anything to, okay. Do I have a motion? Polino. Second?
Second.
Mishler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That carries. Okay, next up, we have our public hearing. So if you are not here for this public hearing, you are free to leave at this moment and it's not rude. Public hearing for 1151 Pittsford Victor Road. The Powder Mill Apartments are here for a special use permit. As this is a new board-ish and it's our first public hearing, I'm going to walk through the process a bit, so bear with me just to get everybody on the same page. So at this point, the town board is conducting an initial public hearing associated with the special use permit request. This will be presented on behalf of RICO Management by Fisher Associates. And at this stage, the town board will not be making a determination on the special use permit. Instead, the board is performing its role as the lead decision-making body by receiving information from the applicant, taking public comment, establishing the record, and referring the application to advisory boards for technical and environmental review. Under Perinton zoning practice, the special use permits are issued by the town board. However, the town board is required and expected to seek advisory input from other boards before taking action. This hearing is part of that front-end review. Procedurally, tonight's public hearing accomplishes three things. We're hearing from the applicant, and we're hearing from the public, and we're referring the application for advisory review. The planning board for review of land use consistency, site layout, circulation, and planning impacts, and the conservation board for advisory input on environmental features, natural resources, and potential impacts. These referrals are consistent with the Perinton Code requirements and customary practices, particularly where projects have environmental or site design implications. Neither board makes the final decision. Their role is advisory, but their feedback is critical to the town board's record and their decision. So why are we doing this step tonight before deciding? It's because a special use permit's not automatic. It requires a finding that the proposed use meets specific standards. We'll be reviewing those tonight. I'm sure the applicant will be reviewing those with us as well. And the application must be evaluated for its compatibility with surrounding uses and conditions. The town board cannot responsibly make that determination without planning board technical feedback and conservation board environmental insight and a full public record. These steps ensure that the board has the information it needs to make a defensible, well-supported finding before deciding whether a special use permit should be granted. So I know that was maybe long-winded, but it just gets everybody on the same page about why we're here tonight and what we're going to be doing. So to get started, I will open up the public hearing and invite the applicant to present the project. You can come right up onto the podium, to the podium.
Happy Earth Day, everybody.
All right.
Great. Yeah, thank you. We've been looking forward to this. My name's Don Netzker. I'm with Fisher Associates, and I'm also joined here by a couple representatives from RICO Management, Kurt Voss and Brendan Sarsfield, as well as architects, Steve Callum and Jamie. So when it comes time to answering questions, or if they want to steer me in the right direction, they can do that.
Great.
And Melissa was kind enough to help me get kind of a presentation slides
That's great.
together. So I've taken the liberty of doing not just presenting the application, but I think mostly for the public's benefit to give a little bit of background that maybe your board already has on this.
No, all the
so-
background's good. That's helpful.
So I'm going to start again by just thanking you for having us here. We're looking forward to walking through this and addressing all of your concerns and the planning board's concerns, conservation's concerns, and the public's concern. So on the screen, you'll see some slides. If you want to advance it, I wanted to just start by talking about the kind of the overview of the concept and why RICO is doing this. There's a picture of 1151 Powder Mill Office Park up on the screen. That building was built in the 1970s. It's got some existing building condition and maintenance issues that got RICO thinking about investing more in the building or doing something different. And a couple things have happened. One with the market, that there's been this real trend of mixed use walkable redevelopment going on in the marketplace. And at the same time, the town has adopted a new comprehensive plan, which has identified this location as mixed use. So those two things got them thinking about alternative uses and the possibility of taking this building down instead of investing in it. And kind of incrementally testing the market for residential uses. I think that in the long run, what they want to do is create a sought after and safe mixed use environment, not just for this piece of the property, but for the adjacent office uses that they have. So that's kind of where this is coming from. The next slide. Am I able to advance these now? Who's got this? Okay, thank you. I mentioned that one of the things that's happened recently, well, time flies, 2021, it says up there, the comprehensive plan, was adopted by the board. And one of the things it did was put a big emphasis on mixed use, and it identified specific locations within the town for mixed uses to occur. On the map up here, it shows kind of the red areas being mixed use areas. I've taken the liberty of drawing those black dash circles around some of them. Those circles are actually half-mile diameter or quarter-mile radius, which represents kind of a nice walkable area. So, the Bushnell's Basin, we all know, is a wonderful walkable hamlet, as Egypt wants to evolve into, and a little bit more aspirational, I think, is the idea that 250 and 31 and this area that we're talking about in Powder Mills becomes more mixed use and a walkable hamlet. So, the goals in the comprehensive plan are to, protect the long range viability of residential areas, to develop a range of different housing opportunities. And that's one of the things that, we've taken into consideration here as well, and to encourage development in mixed use areas to improve walkable access. So, we really feel that this project wants to address those issues. So the next slide. In the comprehensive plan, this is how mixed use character areas are described. And, one of the things I love about the comprehensive plan is instead of just calling them land uses, they call them character areas. So what we're really trying to do here is develop a certain type of character. There's some images up here that were used in the comprehensive plan to try to convey the character of these mixed use areas. I think in some might be more historic and village scaled, like Bushnell's Basin in Egypt. Some might be a little bit more kind of what we're calling suburban retrofit, where they're a little bit more auto-centric that are being converted. So this is in the comprehensive plan. I think the next slide goes on to talk more about the zone that we're in right now. So we're in the restricted business zone, but within that zone, I forget how many years ago it was that the town um, changed the zoning within restricted business to allow the use of the mixed use provisions and standards within that zone. So that's what we plan on doing, is using the mixed use provisions within by right through the restricted business. And the intent, I think, is important of that zone, and we've listed it up here as well, that it's, to provide appropriately scaled uses that support the objectives in the comprehensive plan, mixing of uses. But I think the third piece of intent, I think, is maybe the most important, to really create a lively, pedestrian friendly and attractive spaces, um, that ensure that kind of typical strip development, commercial development doesn't happen. So that's kind of what we're fighting against here. So, we believe that this project we're going to present meets the criteria or the intent of the mixed use district as well. So the next slide, now we start getting to kind of our piece. So that's kind of the town background and the context that we were working within. I've put up a slide here that shows our 1151 Pittsford Victor Road site, kind of within the context of other property that Ryco Management controls. And I've also overlaid a quarter-mile walking radius, again, to show kind of conceptually how this area of kind of near Fishers Road and Pittsford Victor Road could become more of a walkable area. And it's certainly within Ryco's interest to do that because of the extent of their holdings here. Their office uses are doing very well, but it just strengthens the entire area from a land use and economic standpoint to have this kind of mix of use. So the idea here from a contextual standpoint, again, within this area, is to make something very walkable, mixed use. Certainly green is one of the objectives of this. We're sitting, next to one of the pride parks of the county, Powder Mill Park, and want to protect that and all the waterways that flow into it. And also add some additional amenity to this area. It's kind of single-use office use right now. So, we see the opportunity to add different amenities, whether they're recreational, entertainment, commercial type amenities. So that's kind of a bigger picture vision for kind of the Powder Mills Park, Fishers Road Office Park area. The next slide zooms in a little bit more to talk about the specific project that we're asking for the special use permit for, and that's the 1151 Pittsford Victor Road. As you can see, it's kind of at the north end of kind of the western holdings of Ryco. The next slide shows that we went to the planning board earlier this year, and we took one of the parcels and created this particular parcel that's 2.7 acres, so that we could redevelop this as independent kind of residential development. So this is the survey of the subdivision. The next slide goes on to show the basics of the concept that we're trying to portray here. And
zoom in on that. Okay.
So I'm going to try to highlight a few things while we're on this slide, and then might get more into detail on some of the aspects of this plan on some of the next slides. But basically, the most important thing here, I guess, from a land use standpoint, is that we're proposing 39 apartment units, 1 and 2 bedroom units in a 3-story wood frame building with some accessory buildings for housing garage. I think we've got 16 garage spaces proposed in the plan. So 39 units, 16 spaces in, a single 3-story building. These would be market rate units. Uh, the layout that we've shown you up here addresses a lot of the issues that are in the mixed use design guidelines, and I'll talk to that a little bit more as we get into it. I'm kind of going over some of the program elements on this slide. That it does include 55 total parking spaces, compared to there's 50 there now. The existing office building obviously is demolished in this scheme, and the proposed building that you see in brown there is kind of overlaps with the footprint of the existing office building. Um, the site plan meets all of the floor area requirements and um, coverage, lot coverage area requirements that are in the code. So we do meet all of those. This includes a fairly extensive pedestrian system, a lot of sidewalks and crosswalks and that sort of thing. That, again, to make this a walkable environment, one of the goals of a mixed-use development is to connect origins and destinations. So we want people that are living here to be able to walk to where they're going to work or recreate or play. So, I will mention there will be some things that we'll be working through with the planning board as well in site plan approval. The next slide is really just kind of shows the same drawing, but engineered. Again, as we go through site plan approval with the planning board, we'll continue to refine the engineering and address all the kind of the construction materials and utility layouts and all those issues that are included in that. But I think the next slide starts getting more into kind of the design of the project and how we see this project meeting the mixed use design standards that are in your code. Some of the and they also explain why it's laid out the way it is, because we're trying to achieve the things that are in the code, and provide good design at the same time. Your code talks about building placement, and in the mixed use district, the idea is to place the building on the street. You actually have a maximum setback within this district. So, the goal in the code is to try to bring the building up to the street. We've done that in this concept by bringing it both up to the Pittsford Palmyra, the Pittsford Victor road frontage, as well as treating our entry drive as kind of a streetscape. That's one of the important pieces of this concept, is that we're reusing the existing entry drive, but we're reimagining it as a street. So it's going to have street trees and sidewalks and on-street parking for traffic calming purposes, etc. Some of the other components, I think, of the design include trying to put parking on either the sides or the backs. That's in your code as well. No parking in the front yards of these buildings. So that's why you can see the arrangement of all our built structures are pushed either up against Pittsford Victor Road, or they're pushed up against our new entry drive road. And those are both buffering and hiding parking behind, as well as animating the street front. The next image shows, kind of extending that mixed use design standards a little bit. Again, this shows how we've pulled the building up to the road. As you can imagine, kind of Pittsford Victor Road is kind of on the lower right-hand corner of this image. This is our the current entry drive into Powder Mill Office Park, that again is being kind of reimagined more as a street than it is a driveway. So our building addresses that street as well as 96. Some of the architectural elements that are included in the code talk about building design and composition, how to fit in this district and to give it human scale and character. They have a base, they have a midsection and a crown. So Hanlon Associates, who's designing these, has taken that into consideration. Um, at the street level, I think the next slide shows this even better. At the street level, we're really trying to connect the building um, to the public. So there's more glass and glazing on the first floor. The entranceway is very visible and open to the public. Again, these are all things that are good to make good design sense, but they also are things that are encouraged in your code. Um, and we've decided to go with this kind of traditional look, a mix of horizontal siding and the brick masonry, a lot of kind of vertical breaks in what is otherwise kind of a horizontal building to give it um, th- that more traditional look. I think the next slide gives you more details in terms of how that, base and midsection and crown works. It shows some of the balconies and porch stoops that are going to be addressing, the public facing street. Um, these elevations also show us slightly exceeding the height recommendation that's in the mixed use district, which is 40 feet. Our eve line is at 33 feet, which is fairly standard for a three-story building. But in order to give this a traditional feel, to make it fit the character of the neighborhood, we've decided to go with gabled roofs. And then the other thing that the gabled roofs will do is allow us to put our mechanical equipment up on top of the buildings and hide those. So these elevations, I think, do a good job of showing, the architectural consistency with your code. At the very top, you'll see the design of the garage buildings, which are again designed with nice steep gabled roofs and dormers to fit in the residential character and to add value, um, actually to help screen some of the parking, as they're being attractive little outbuildings in their own right.
What is the ridge peak elevation? You said slightly exceed.
46 feet. Yes. The next slide just shows a very basic floor plate, and I think we included this just to suggest that kind of the idea of the interior of this building without it being fully laid out yet is going to be a double loaded corridor building, fairly traditional with a central elevator. The entrance to this building is going to be in the kind of southwest corner or lower left in this diagram with an entry lobby and then a community room, exercise room at that kind of corner, which is the most public corner of this. And the remainder of these units with either porch stoops on the first floor or little balconies on the second and third floors. The next slide addresses our utility connections. One of the beautiful things about this site and one of the beautiful things about what we call suburban retrofit, where you're trying to take an existing auto-centric place and turn it into a more pedestrian place, is that it's already set up with infrastructure. So we have public water and sewer already running down our driveway that we'll be able to tap into. The current building already uses those. There's underwater stormwater system. We are going to be modifying that to some degree because of the location of those lines. So there will be a fairly substantial modification to the underwater stormwater system, but we've got a conceptual design worked out for that. So we're good shape utility wise. The next slide starts addressing another important issue that we're addressing in this, which is the buffer. There's a 50-foot buffer strip on the north side of the property because there's a transition to a residential zoning district there. So, what we've done in our plan, we're kind of battling two kind of conflicting objectives. One is, the code wants us to put the buildings on the street and the parking behind the buildings. So we're trying to get fire access behind the building and So in order to do that on this lot, we've come up with a kind of like a toolkit of buffering tools that we'd like to propose um, to either work out here, work out with the planning board, or work out with neighbors. But in the toolkit, I think we feel like one of the most important things is going to be tree preservation. So we have located all of the large diameter trees, particularly the ones that are along the border. We've got some pictures of them up here. You know, the largest tree is a locust tree that has over, 30-inch caliper, and we've kind of redesigned our circulation to protect that tree as well as others. So preserving existing vegetation is going to be one of our primary tools. We're also going to be proposing a 6-foot high solid fence. Um, the material is up in the air, but some sort of a darker natural color that will be recessive and blend into the boundary. We're proposing kind of a mix of new canopy trees, understory trees, evergreen trees, and shrubs that will kind of give the best buffering on a vertical standpoint. So what we're going for is trying to do vertical buffering as opposed to horizontal space buffering. Um, Additionally, we've got some grade working in our favor. There is um, the land rises to that north property line. It continues to rise into the neighbors' yards a little bit and then drops off. So there's kind of a natural berm there. We're going to use, we've got another tool of using retaining walls and some berming to address that buffer as well. So we feel that there's a kind of some great buffering schemes, and we've done some additional illustrations. I think the next slide, Hanlon Architects has done a great job of kind of portraying what these buffers could look like. So in this particular view, which is from Pittsford Victor Road, looking kind of southwest, as you're approaching it. As you're approaching, you can see from a building standpoint, one of the garage buildings and then the apartment building in the background on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side is where our buffer strip is, and there are some nice mature trees in this particular part of the site that we will preserve. We're also going to be doing a lot of our stormwater treatment in this portion of the site. Within that, we want to make it more of a stormwater garden effect and run like a stone dust trail or something to park roads, so we can connect. So it becomes more of an amenity for the property as well, and not just for the residents, but for the greater neighborhood as well. Another thing this slide. Mention something there then? You were gonna do that or like pollinator garden, a couple of native grasses? I think it's just clearly within the realm of what could be done there, yes. Another thing that this slide and I think the next one will show too is that these garage buildings, even though they're garages, are really attractive buildings. They're one-story buildings, and they almost kind of step the scale up, to the apartment building, which is on the corner. So they're, very keeping in scale with the surrounding residential neighborhood. The next slide is another view. This is on the right-hand side of this drawing is the entrance to our building. On the far left-hand side is the western bank of garage buildings. So really what we're looking at here is in the background is another one of our buffer areas. And it's, the big tree that you see is the one that we really want to save. And we've kind of redesigned the circulation around that tree. We've suggested a seating height or a small retaining wall that'll protect the roots of that, so that'll grow but still be able to slope up and berm. And then you can see there's a suggestion of a fence back there. One of the things we've suggested in our site plan was it doesn't have to just be a straight fence along the property line either. And we'd be willing to talk to, the abutting property owners to see it could be the fence, the plantings could happen on either side of the fence within that buffer area, or maybe it's serpentine and some plantings happen on, the neighbor's side and some on ours. But and again, that's why we're looking at this as a toolkit. And I think the way we drew it up, we actually had the fence swaying away from the property line, kind of towards the western end, with some plantings on the north side of the fence, just to show some of the different alternative ways we could approach that. The next slide shows, again, this is kind of looking to the north or east, I guess, looking directly at the entrance to the building. And again, you can see on the left-hand side how the treatment of this kind of buffer area, that where we preserved the existing trees, the one that's kind of hanging right over us almost, is the big locust that we've designed this around. And then there's some other large trees that we've located with survey that we would protect as we go down here, and then plant additional either canopy trees or evergreen trees to kind of reinforce that buffer. And again, the kind of, in this area, it slopes up. Another, I guess, thing that while we're on this slide, I can also mention that all of our drainage is going to be caught in catch base. There won't be anything draining off of the site at this location. You can see here, the slope is coming into our site. You can also see here kind of the emphasis on pedestrian movement, that we've kind of broken up the parking. Isn't one big massive parking lot. We've broken up the parking lots, and we've had walkways that actually cross the driveways and parking lots to slow traffic and remind traffic that this is a pedestrian involvement or area. I think the next slide speaks to traffic. We've got an existing office building on there, and the way our transportation engineer looked at this was basically comparing the existing condition to a future condition, so that what's in our application shows the trip generation based on the office use that's out there right now versus the trip generation created by the apartment building. And what he found was that there'd be a very, very minor increase in the daily volumes, but because residential uses typically are spread over the course of a day rather than being peak, that actually any peak activity, peak volume in the residential scenario would be lower than the existing office. And either way, because of the design of the intersection and the left turn lanes in from Pittsford Victor Road, the finding was that there would be no traffic impact in the conversion of the use. The next slide speaks very generally still at this point in time to our stormwater approach. We will be delving into this fully at the site plan level, but there's basically two major drainage basins that affect our site. And what's labeled, I think this is in your application material, as drainage area 1. It all flows north, kind of northeast, and discharges out of this area right at the corner of Park Road and Pittsford Victor Road. Drainage area 2 drains into the underground stormwater system that's on our property. So that will be continued to be picked up. So we'll be picking up drainage area 2 within our site, within existing and proposed catch basins. We'll be modifying the path of the underground drainage a little bit, but our underground system will still daylight in generally the same area, which is kind of on the north side of our eastern garage buildings, into an area that is that northern strip, skinny strip, which is where the stormwater treatment would generally happen, and that would be a combination of, we'd be using green infrastructure and rain gardens and, other opportunities to do pollinator gardens or whatever with some of the plantings as we do that. So with that, I think the next slide was just your 12 standards. I'm not going to go through all these again because I think that I'm hoping that I hit all of these on in my presentation. If I haven't, we have addressed each one of these in our application, and feel confident that our project meets the special use standards, and it would be a great project for the town and something you'd all be proud of. Anyone have anything from Raiko or Steve? Anyone want to add anything to that, or did I already overuse my time?
No, this is really helpful. Thank
Okay,
you for walking
good.
through all this and for providing the visuals are really helpful for all of us to be able to picture what's going on. Do we normally chat first and then open it up for public comment? Okay, good, because I have some questions. Okay, my questions. Well, first, I'll go through my comments and then my questions. So one, um, actually, no, I'll do my question first. If you left this as office space, could you make the building this size? So if you didn't change the use at all and you just wanted to build more office space, could you do something like this? Like a little bit, like what are the parameters if you kept it the same use?
I'm gonna look to Mike a little bit, but as far as I know, because we did look at physically, we could do it. We did look at a
Okay.
scenario of a 30,000 square foot office
Okay.
building on the site. Physically, it fits and it meets the standards.
Okay.
And actually, I don't think it has to comply with the mixed use district at that
Right.
point. We could do it within this restricted business district and
Okay.
which has a whole separate set of guidelines. I'm quite sure we can do that within the regulations of the code, and I know we can do it physically. It's just
Right. But you would
wasn't the market fit.
absolutely. So, okay. So that I think helps me get to my points and my thoughts about this because if we're not talking about a farm, right, and beautiful landscaped area, we're talking about an already developed piece of land that you would have the right to put a building on and keep it office space and have it look similar to what we would have here anyways, right? So the question before us really, there's a lot of questions, but one of the biggest one is the use for having it be residential, this change of course, a good use for this area? Um, I mean, we're not making decisions tonight, but I'm just going to give you my thoughts on it because I think feedback from us as a board is helpful going forward. Um, there are a lot of questions to answer, but right off the cuff, I mean, honestly, if we're looking at where to put housing in our town, this is an area where it kind of makes sense to put housing. I really do think that this is a thought process that makes sense on a major road where there is already traffic there, that in a road that can handle it. I like that you're not coming with like 100 units and 4 stories. I appreciate that we're discussing density, and that's a discussion we need to have, but we're talking about 3 stories, and we're starting from a reasonable place. And the general use, what else would you put there? Right. So as a landowner, like what else would you put there besides more office space, which we all know is vacant? In the town of Perinton, we have quite a bit of vacant office space right now. In Perinton Hills, you just have to drive through there to see how well it's being used. Do we need more of that, or do we need housing? I like the idea that you're bringing housing and to the park. There's walkability to the park, which is nice. Maybe brings that as as an option for folks. I think that the side of the building that faces Route 96. I'd like it if that had a little bit more love to it. I think the front where people walk in is nice, but that one side, it's a short side, I get, but it feels a little bit more like the side of a building, and that's the side that faces Route 96. I think it's that northeast elevation. Um, this isn't for now, but when you showed the um, larger plan for all the properties that you guys have there, it's kind of a neat opportunity to look at that whole cluster, right? And see like, what could that be? Um, I know that you're moving forward with this first project, but it might make sense wherever we end up with this after it to take a look at like a plan for that whole area, so that each project wouldn't be coming before us individually in a vacuum, where we could kind of see what the future would hold for that whole thing. So we could see that as a whole would be really neat. Um, you are compliant with coverage to code. It looks like, and I had talked about this with Councilman Flino a bit as well, that we had mentioned a few wiggle room things. What specific variances would you be looking for this project? You have height and side setback, I think I noticed for the 50-foot setback.
So, well, just one clarification, they're not variances, they're waivers.
Or waivers,
Right.
okay.
They're within the code, the planning board is granted the right to grant waivers on the height within that. So
Okay,
it does make it, I mean, it's the one less board involved and one less stop that we have to make.
oh, so you can.
But it's
yeah,
still, we
you
still
can
have
not
to
even go
address,
to zoning for that.
we still have to
Okay.
address it, but we address it with the
Yep.
planning board through a waiver. And it would be the height. So the maximum height of 40 will be asking for 46.
Mhm.
And again, the goal really is to make it fit the character of the neighborhood and
Right.
hide the mechanical equipment more than anything else. Otherwise we could build a 3-story building in 40 feet, but it just, and then the buffer issue is, kind of how the buffer is treated. We have made sure that we set back all of the buildings, all the structures outside of the 50 feet. Um, so it's kind of interpreting what can go on in that buffer is another thing we'll be asking the planning board for, I
Mhm.
think. Whether we're allowed to, have a driveway through there or an alleyway or fire access,
Okay.
or
So
No.
while we're on waivers, why are you after a waiver for the garages? Is there a reason for that?
the garages.
Yeah,
I was just talking to Steve about that. I don't know. There's the code actually has a minimum height in it, all right, like of 20 feet. And I didn't realize that they were so close. They're like 19 feet, right? 19.3. So
Wait, the garage
think
has to
we
be
can-
20 feet high?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
if I may,
Yeah.
the minimum height requirement in a mixed use district is 20 feet.
Okay.
Because the idea being that you wanted to have massing of your buildings at the street rather than having something lower.
Okay.
So that's why.
It sounds like that's you could get to 20.
so
Okay.
I think we can avoid that by just adding some inches. I didn't
Okay.
realize we were that close.
Okay, let me see what else I had. So garages, we talked about facing Route 96. We saw the view of them. It looks like you can't really maybe necessarily tell that it's a garage bay from 96. I think like that would be important, I feel like, to us, that it doesn't look like it and there's landscaping and it feels like it could be a little row of houses there or something like that. So, I don't know, it adds to that quaint look that would be important.
Good.
We talked about green infrastructure. You had already mentioned it. I think that would be really important to this board, knowing that there was green infrastructure methods, understanding what those would be. I know we're not going to push to go through the engineering at this point, but keeping that in mind, as Councilman Flino had mentioned, native plantings, any ways to reduce the permeable surfaces, anything that you can think of on that regard, it would go a long way, I think, in seeing this. Also looking at use of pesticides, when you have a project like this where you're paying one person to do all the care, maybe that's an easier way to get a bigger project with less chemical usage, all that kind of stuff. It would be great if that was taken into consideration. And I'll stop and open it up to the rest of the board now. Sorry. If anybody else has thoughts.
You go. Um, First of all, I think that the existing entrance has some nice sight lines to kind of start with. It's not a straight road, so there's some curves to it, which I think complement, it gives you something nice to start with. I liked that the garages had some gabling on the top. I liked that the one side of the garage had some windows. I don't know if they would be functioning windows or if they would be false windows, so that there isn't just a large blank sort of space there. Is there any thought to, obviously, 39 units, you said 16 garage spaces. So not every unit gets a garage. Do the math. I'm assuming that people have a garage, easy space to put their bikes, but those folks perhaps that don't have a garage, maybe some bike racks, or I have also seen some newer developments include a bike room. Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. Some thinking about putting EV chargers in some of those parking locations.
Yep.
And then I added native plantings. What else did I say? I liked that the parking lots were broken up and there wasn't a whole lot of, a sea of concrete to stare at. From a design standpoint, I think it's nicely done. Can I say something I don't particularly? It's just a tasteful thing. I think that the entrance looks sort of like a nursing home entrance, like that. It looks too medical to me. I think that there could be something different there that could just make it warmer and more of 'cause I feel somebody else maybe was thinking the same thing. Great minds think alike sometimes, right?
Okay, no.
Um,
And we are planning on EV chargers
Okay.
as well. We have built
Fantastic.
in the plan.
And I guess I have to piggyback on Supervisor Townsend's idea of just a bigger plan. So I think it would be helpful to have the larger sort of vision in mind if that is something that is that we're thinking about, and how these would all tie together, I think could be really helpful. I'm sure I have more, but that's what's coming to mind right now. Thank you.
I'll speak just a little bit, and Kurt, you might as well. I think all I'm going to say, and then I'll let you add to this, is that RICO management has been in the community for decades and generations, and they're looking at this as an investment for the future as well. And this is kind of a test to see, test the market a little bit.
Right.
So there is an interest in a grander plan, but at the same time, they've got great occupancy, they've got great tenants. So the timing of, moving forward is, there's not an urgency behind it right
Okay.
now. I don't know if Kurt, if you want to add to that or.
Yeah.
Mhm.
With RICO, I would just say the timing for something like that is probably 5+ years, just given the existing tenants and leases that we have in
Mhm.
place in those buildings currently. In terms of like site plan layout, I think we've talked like informally about what that could look like, but
Mhm.
we're, you know, it just.
You're
in
not
terms
there
of-
yet.
Yeah, where the.
And I think it
go.
makes sense to do your test first before you spend the money to do a full plan. But to the point of when you get there in 5 years, if it looks like it's a good idea, a plan would be nice at that point, I think. Yeah.
I think that the saving the trees, especially the mature trees that are there, made me very happy that you're trying to work those in. That makes me very happy. The buffering that you're doing, uh, can never have too much buffering. So.
So I guess I'm going to be next. Are these rentals or owner occupied or
Rental.
they are rental?
Market rate rental
Okay. All right.
units, yep.
And I think you touched a little bit on the other three buildings. Does the future hold true to maybe doing something of this sort with them in the near future that are on the property, the powder mill property?
And I think that was, it's a longer term thing, as
Correct,
Kurt
right.
mentioned, but, I think consistent with, again, the town's plan and the direction that the market's going, that's been the discussion, is that, if this is successful, if, people continue to work from home, if, or if we just think, we've also just looked at densifying it, leaving those buildings, office buildings, but just filling in some of the parking lots and, just making it more dense because it is, already served by infrastructure and such. So, but it's a longer term.
Right. And there's three other buildings on the property, is that correct? There's five, okay. Yes. All right, big one for me is the parking. I feel like there's a lack of parking. So you have a total of 50 bedrooms, right? I'm doing the math real quick. So you have a possibility of, let's say, 75 vehicles, right? Possibly, maybe two or three per unit. If you have a husband and a wife in a second bedroom, a student or somebody else that can drive. I'm not saying that's the case, but the possibility could be there. So I feel like there's a lack of not enough parking. And the question I have is the garages. How does that work? Do you buy a garage with the unit or is it part of the rental? Because there's only 16 available. So if somebody doesn't rent a unit, it stays vacant and then they have to park in a open parking spot, or how does that work?
I can start by just talking about the numbers. I mean, so the code speaks to, was it the international
I saw
engineer?
that, yeah.
And
It looked a 1.53 vehicle.
it actually is like between 1.2 and 1.3 vehicles per unit. So we agreed that that was too low. So from a market standpoint, we were shooting for 1.5 spaces per unit or one per bedroom, and we're trying to exceed that. So right now, the number that we have is kind of exceeding the standards, but there's still a market, still cautious about the market, whether there'd be a greater demand, as you say. So that leads to one of the great advantages of them owning those properties to the south, that have huge parking lots that are probably 70% vacant most of the time when you say. So there's opportunities for shared parking. If it turns out that the 55 spaces doesn't accommodate it. As far as I'll start with the garages. I mean, there was quite a bit of research done in terms of demand and ups, upselling basically. So it would be an additional fee to get a garage.
Okay.
It'd be available to the tenants, and then, we could only certainly working with all the constraints that we had on the site, we could only put 16 on site, and I think he decided that was an all right mix in terms of the market as well, that, there's going to be 16 people, lucky people that get one, and other people will park, in outside,
Or they could be used for storage as
or they
well,
could be
right?
used for storage. Yep. Did you want to add anything to that, Kurt?
Thing that I would add is the number of garages that we opted to go with.
16.
The design is based on like our market research. We talked with a couple local developers for multifamily, and that was the amount that they suggested for a apartment development of this size. I think that's pretty much it.
Right. Yeah, it just feel like it's not enough, but um overflow parking, I mean, unless you, I mean, we've seen it before, unless you own that property, it's hard to have shared parking, it seems like. Issues happen where you have to take that away. It's nice when you can control the parking that you have. I know you own the other properties, but stranger things have happened if you sell them, that they don't have that overflow parking availability. I just feel the parking is kind of limited. Um, Describe to me the drop off there. There's like 3 spots for the drop off area as you enter. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of the trends of, Uber and Lyft and UPS, and I mean, because of all the, Amazon. So having a place where someone can pull over for short-term drop-off pickup, Uber Eats, that's the primary use of that.
And if
Space.
those spots are full, what would be the second choice for somebody to stand by, or is there provisions for anything of that sort? The parallel parking's before on the north side,
Yeah,
and the parallel parking is for residents parking, or? Okay.
yeah. Resident and guest.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to ask a question about school buses picking up and dropping off. Where would that be, at that same drop-off
Mm.
location?
It's a good question. We hadn't talked about that yet, but that probably would make sense that kind of where the close to the entrance to the building um would be a good spot for it. And then I think there's room to turn around once you go past that. But
Yeah, that was the other
we'll-
question, the
yeah, we'll
turnaround accessibility. to
kinda
get
look
in
at,
and out.
we'll look at some turning radiuses and such for school buses in there.
What else? We talk about the sidewalk usage. Is there a sidewalk that currently runs down 96? Not on that side. Okay.
Oh, a significant part of sidewalk that needs built, that part road.
Yeah, we'd love to see that gap filled as well.
All right. I'm just going to put it out there. I guess I'm not in favor of the 3 stories, to be honest with you. I think it's a little bit too much for this area. I know we're trying to maybe set a precedence for future development in your area here, but I just, I know you're looking for the variance, but I'm just putting it out there. I don't know if I'm in favor of the 3 stories at this point. So, Mike, I'll let you ask any questions.
Yeah, I mean, I said the height, the 46 feet versus I mean, would you rather three stories with a flat roof than?
Aesthetically, 2 stories with a gable roof would be great. I mean, that's the way I look at it for that area.
You're talking
know,
about the number
cut-
of the stories, not the height.
Correct.
Right.
The height concerns me.
And one of the problems with going 2 stories, I mean, you're reducing the number of units by 33%, or you're increasing the footprint and the impervious surface by, that same amount if you want to get the more units in there, and then the parking becomes more challenging and everything if you start spreading the units out. So that was the advantage to going vertical, I think.
Is that,
Oh, sure, absolutely.
is that stories for the actual sign or anything else?
Were you suggesting no 3 stories for along Route 96 or just this specific development?
For this specific development to start with. I believe there's some more coming. I think we just want to kind of keep this Bushnell's Basin area, aesthetically appeasing to everybody. But at this point, I'm just not in favor of the 46 feet.
Not ones that are there now. Okay. Oh, where did Mike go? Okay. Do you have any more thoughts?
I'm good for now. I'm good for now.
Um, well,
Coming back.
should we wait for him to come back or move on to public comment? I'm going to give him 1 minute. There we go. You're up, Mike. Let's go.
So just a couple points. Thank you for the presentation. I want to thank everyone in the audience for attending today as well, and all the emails we received. And having grown up here and fishing a lot, very familiar with that area. And thank you for the developers and Hamlin Architects, Ryco for your properties, and Don with Fisher for this well laid out and prepared presentation. For the folks in the audience, there is all this documentation online available under the website property review. And I think for all presentations going forward, I think getting the capability to zoom in or a larger monitor or projection would be great. I was having problems. That's what I was using my phone for, to actually magnifying glass sheet and see some of the elevations on here or on some of those sheets, just so that everyone who doesn't have a chance to look online, for all applicants and for the residents, I think that's a good layer where we can see and, zoom in and point. A couple things during the initial presentation. We both know that comprehensive plans, this one's already halfway through its lifespan. So it's not like it's a brand new infant plan. 4 of the 5 board members that approved that plan are no longer on the board. So I think that speaks to well stated issues that I have with some of the parts of the comprehensive plan that I inherited from others, that I didn't agree with some of their use assessments. One of the other things, we did make a statement that we're trying to avoid the commercial strip level plaza here, but we got 3 of those 6 slides of the comprehensive plan on page, it was the use character are retail strip plazas. I'd prefer to see single use, whether that is residential or commercial office. And also village parcels are not relevant to a town. That's different density, different municipal boundaries. And I really am not a fan of the Barnes Noble RIT. We're talking about student housing, retail at a major research university as opposed to not. I just don't think those were helpful inclusiveness in that slide to advocate for what was going to go on here. I do like the very depth of the front planes on the pitch of it, especially on the south and north walls, where you get, it's not just a single, even if you got architectural elements or design elements to break that up. I think in having the very depths between the units, or a look of like row houses to give it that character. I am very concerned about the garbage tote location in the trash pickup, because now with no entrances to the north of that building, all trash trucks are going to have to traverse the entire area to pick those up, load, pivot in a very tight spot, especially with the parking right now. I think that would be prior to the next meeting. Even before planning board and approval, I would definitely like to see some turning radiuses, letters from the fire department, either Bushnell's Basin, verifying that their aerials can get through. School bus, I think with all the trails, a clear enclosed shelter that is sealed from the road and on three sides if you were to go that way, or like an RTS bus stop on the front where it would be visible to all, but would only be accessible from the apartment side closer to 96, and just have your school bus stop there if that was to happen, because they wouldn't be crossing the street. I think that would be more efficient for the district if on any of these developments too. I just happen to be talking with there in terms of the efficiency of it. Snow storage and plowing, would that be kept on site? Because even if you own the adjoining parcels, as Councilman Masterson said, if something was to change and there was to be a change of ownership, without written easements and deeded use for that flag parcel, it's the flag of the southern parcel on the western side of this one, if that was where you're planning to go with snow storage. I think right now, if you were to keep it on this parcel, you're extremely limited in where you would have your snow storage for plowing. That is of your 55 parking spaces, that include the 60 in the garage or additional? The garage are included in that total?
That includes the 16.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's see. And again, same for overflow. I mean, you meet the parameters, so I'm not going to get into that in terms of parking numbers. For all of the concrete sidewalks, and not just your project, but all moving forward here, I would love to see permeable pavers or not, I know it's not as ideal. It's a little bit more maintenance, but I think for any of our projects where we can get away with impermeable surfaces, I'd like to see that incorporated more stringently from all of our boards as well. Especially in areas, I know we've got really good stormwater management and catch basin, but anything that's adjacent to Aronicoy Creek, which has got that purview of it. What is the acreage of the parcel immediately to the south?
What?
The acreage of the southerly parcel. Roughly.
The south.
Five?
I mean, the part that,
The southern office park. Yep. So you're,
so there's Fisher's Road, Office Park.
let's see. Oh, sorry. The one that
Yeah.
shares the entranceway driveway to the south.
Okay,
The
yeah,
other-
that one is 5.
Okay, that's five as well.
Yeah. what's
It would
eight minus
be
two?
this one.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
think it
right
was
to
5 point
through the
something.
south of that shared entranceway. On the proposed site plan map, it would be that parcel that is below the southern boundary. Is that, but your ownership group owns that one as well? Oh, okay.
Now I need my glasses, and I mean, there is a copy of the survey.
I did
in
see
the
it, and it's where I
package,
forgot
but-
my magnifying glass in my other
Yeah.
office.
You need that.
No, I was just curious. I
Okay.
mean, if
If
you,
you're
I'm
just
not
curious.
looking for an answer tonight. If you guys happen to know right off the top of the head, I'd appreciate it, but no. Don, that's okay.
We can get that another time, guys.
Oh, okay. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
good stuff.
Just
Yeah.
approximation.
Yeah.
Oh, and last question, what is your current percentage of occupancy or vacancy for the existing office building there? Yeah, rough, yeah. 80 vacant? Okay.
Wow.
That build, I mean, 1151. 1151 is.
Yeah,
is 80%
just
vacant.
for this parcel, and again, for
Right.
most of it, and that's where here is a board and looking at it, well, a plan is nice. Our purview is specifically on this application, in this parcel. So we've got to be impartial in terms of any other adjacent parcels that are owned, but speculative for future development. So again, those are the biggest things. I think that will also help the process along. I know traditionally it goes differently, but I think more detailed site plan on special use permits will make your back end process and everything else a lot more efficient before we get to that spot. And those are my comments, but again, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
As you can tell, this is the
Much.
board that likes detail, if you haven't noticed that already. So it's a good thing just to keep in mind going forward.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to open it up for the public to comment on this project.
That's beyond my technical ability. Areas.
She's got it.
I don't know if that cords, hey, with this one.
I got it. Chris is submitted.
Great idea.
Okay, sorry about that, everybody. Okay, public comment. So if you would like to comment on this project, just raise your hand, please, and I'll call on you to come up. When you come up, please let us know your name and your address. If you represent an organization, let us know. We will not allow any booing or anything like that, but along with that, no clapping. So it goes hand in hand. You can't boo and you can't clap. So we're going to keep all audible responses not happening at this in this civil discourse. So we can get started. Would anybody like to get going, ma'am? Yes, please. Come on up. Yep, come right up to the podium and state your name and address, and we'd love to hear your comments.
Hello, friends.
Oh, we may need a.
Just maybe pull that down a little bit. Yeah.
My name is Bobby Reef. I live at 186 Park Road, and I have been there about 25 years or more. I'm here to express my strong opposition to the changes in the regulations proposed on behalf of the Powder Mills Land Company, requesting a special use permit for a 39-unit multifamily residential development at 1155 Pittsburgh Victor Road. We are concerned about the potential negative impacts these changes could bring to our neighborhood. Our residence, 186 Park Road, is on a private drive that abuts the Powder Mills Office Park. There is an approximately 40-foot burn between the park and the private drive it abuts. This proposed change will negatively affect the neighborhood with a decline in the overall quality of life and character of our community. Our opposition is rooted in a desire to maintain the safety, integrity, and harmony of our residential area. A wholesale change from commercial zoning to accommodate this addition is very unwelcome. We bought on Park Road to enjoy the peacefulness of Powder Mills Park, the wildlife, and the quiet enjoyment of our community. I do not see any consideration being given to the traffic flows through the county park and its environmental effects on the park, the people who live here, and the wildlife. The safety of the traffic of all this development on Route 96 is not going to improve with these additions, and there are already frequent accidents. Route 96 in the Pittsford area is considered a high traffic, accident prone, hazardous location compared to other less busy roads in the region. The increased traffic, garbage, and population density that a project of this size could destroy the character of our community. Although the town seeks to address a housing shortage, the town plan prioritizes protecting the long-term viability of existing residential neighborhoods. Considering the safety risks and environmental impact of adding 35 residents in a 2.2-acre area next to private homes, this plan should be denied. The board has shown itself to grant this new development despite the concerns of the residents. We implore you to consider our concerns. The town has left this 2-square-mile area from Bushell's Basin to Willowbrook Office Park awash in new development. While this project is pending, other recent developments in this 2-mile corridor include the Hartwell Heights at Route 96 in Thornell, several multifamily and apartment buildings, the Burgundy Basin 209 apartment building project, the Willowbrook Office Park 100-unit apartment building, Woodcliff subdivision with 178 units. These are, and a very unwelcome hotel on Fishers. I think asking for over 500 new residences in our little 2 square miles has shown that the board is not fully considering the safety and environmental impacts of adding all these new residents. This is an area of single-family homes. 3-story apartment buildings were never foreseen with the current zoning in place. The quiet office park with no traffic evenings and weekends is more in keeping with our neighborhood and the original agreement the town made with us regarding the zoning 25 years ago. Please deny this request. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to come on? Yes, sir.
I would first like to, well, I'm supposed to introduce myself, yes.
Thank you.
My name's Joel Grover. I live on Old Stonefield Way. Um, Compliment the team on uh, a good presentation, obviously well thought out. Something though sticks in my mind when uh, when I first saw this, and that is this. This is going to be a dwelling for residences. Therefore, it's going to have hopefully lots of children, families. Um, it seems, dare I say, seems almost like a punchline to say, and where do we want to put this 39 unit dwelling full of families and kids? Why, we want to put it about 50 feet from the busiest main artery in Perinton. Now, that's, that seems kind of nutty to me. I mean, but I'm not an architect. Um, but I do wonder in thinking this through, you've got a lot of land over there. You chose to have this apartment structure fronting right on 96. Did you think about locating it back someplace that would be safer and more easily accessible, would make it easier for utilities and buses to get in and out, um, owners and so on? Did you consider any of those possibilities? And if so, why didn't any of those make the grade? It seems like it would have been a lot safer for the residents to have that building tucked way at the back.
Excuse me, Mr. Grover, I don't want to interrupt, but we have to direct your comments to us at the town board, at the board, not the applicant. Sorry, that's okay.
Stuck out of the side.
But we'll try to make time to answer questions after if there's time. So, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to disrespect the town board.
That's okay.
But that's basically the question I've got on my mind. Why bite down on that problem? And the presentation presented, it basically said there was going to be a walk area or something, and running right down the middle of that walk area is Route 96. What are we going to build, a bridge over it or a tunnel underneath it? I don't know. Seems like there's a lot that could have been done to make it safer for the residents and friendlier for public services.
Great. Thank you very much for your comment. Yes, young man, please come up.
Hello, everybody. I'm Nate Alvarado. I live at 8 Parkview Drive, in Pittsford, New York, in Perinton area.
Mhm.
I'm a resident living in the Powder Mill area, and my problem with the institution uh, of the apartment complex would be the traffic lights, because it's already really busy enough as it is. Like, there's already it's already hard enough to get from point A to point B.
Right.
Just through the area. You have to take shortcuts through the park sometimes to even get to school. And it's already come to my attention that that the Bushells Basin, Perrington, Pittsford area has already been started to be over urbanized, and just like buildings, projects being put to the board, even like just so many apartment plannings. It's just kind of like, I'm not opposed to it, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense in my mind. Uh, I believe that the nature of the areas with the deforestation of places already being torn down to build these residents would have a greater negative effect on the people living in the area than while you build the apartment complexes, than it would in the long term if some of these places do stay open longer. Another idea I would have is not a monthly rental area. It would be probably yearly because what if there's children living there and they couldn't pay off like a monthly thing. It's like before you can say highly expensive hotel or apartment complexes, they're out of the schools like with the friends that they've made. It's just plus our buses are already filled up to the brink. Like just it's overflowing basically. And just with the shortage of busing already, um, that area would seem to be a little more impacted. Also,
Great job.
also, the parking lot, I have some problems with that. Like the bright lights, first of all, plus it being paved because some people just can't take care of trash. And they said that it was on a downslope. So if there is like litter, it could get washed away from heavy storms into the park area, and that could affect the nature and wildlife there too as well. Plus, there's a lot of fishing derbies that happen there. I know there's one on Friday of last week, and a lot of kids and people enjoy coming out there. If there was a giant building there, I mean, sure, there would be more residents, but it could also impact the wildlife and like enforce animals to actually have to vacate and leave the area. Um, It's also very dangerous on Pittsford Victor Road and plus on Fishers where our road is off of. People are very crazy on the road. You always have to drive defensively. And like I've almost like just being on my bike have been hit off the road by people just like being careless. And I would wonder how that would impact elderly people in that apartment complex. And I'm not totally opposed to the idea, but just 3 stories is definitely, in my opinion, too much. And because you need to fill up these spaces, but not with just like over urbanizing. Plus, I would also have to add that I would believe that if you could make these resident buildings more of a community fulfilling area where like the people living in these residential areas would come up and help like work like the lawn, like the area, have a gardening place, like that could also be a nice contribution the to the environment there. Um, yeah. Uh, I know that there's already some plans for that, but if there's also plotted areas pointed throughout the park for building complexes. I would I wouldn't most likely be uh I wouldn't most likely support that because now you're taking down more wildlife, it but I like the idea of like making the area more accessible to people, just not not destroying habitat, wildlife, and impacting those around.
Great.
Thank you.
Hey, great job. Thank you very much for your comment. Good job, Mom. Good job everyone there. All right. Who's next? Yes. Come on. Hello.
Jenny Mayer. I'm living in the village of Fairport, and I'm not representing an organization, but many of you know I'm a member of Color Fairport Green. I actually support multi-family housing as a way to mitigate our environmental impact, but I would like to ask that we require in return for granting a special use permit that this apartment complex build all electric with no gas appliances are built to the highest energy efficiency standards. I'm glad to hear that there's EV ports, charging ports being installed, but we need to be ready for 2035 when all new cars are going to be EV in New York State, as long as we stick to that plan. So we need to be ready to have the capacity for more ports there, and that the developers seriously, thoroughly research and consider installing renewable energy technologies such as solar panels and ground source heat pumps in order to reduce our energy use. So especially given that there's going to be sounds like it's going to be a lot of site work for the underground storm water management, seems like an opportunity to put in a ground source heating system. Why do I ask this? Well, Monroe County, we know that the most dire threat, first of all, happy Earth Day. I mean, one of the reasons that we're here, that we celebrate Earth Day, is to commemorate our commitment and obligation to protecting the earth for future generations. The most dire threat, environmental threat to future generations, is climate change. And that is caused by us burning fossil fuels. And it's really imperative that at every level we are committed to reducing our fossil fuel emissions and to slow down climate change. Monroe County has already recognized the seriousness of the threat. They're currently working on a climate adaptation and resiliency plan. Actually, they're going to be talking about it here at the PCC on May 7th. You can come to that meeting and hear about that plan. That process has the county planning to deal with increases in extreme heat, flooding, severe storms, severe winter storm, and disease outbreaks. Monroe County's climate action website says that by the end of the century, without taking action, Monroe County will experience an 11-degree Fahrenheit increase in annual high temperature, 4 times more heat wave events, and 100% increase in 1-inch precipitation events. In other words, the county expects that children born today will face a much more difficult environment than we are experiencing now unless we take serious action to reduce our fossil fuel emissions. So we personally in Color Fairport Green, we're thrilled that Monroe County passed a climate action plan that pledges to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2050. We believe the town of Perinton shares this commitment, but 2050 is only 24 years away. The buildings that are built today are going to be in use in 2050, and we still have a lot of work to do. So I would ask that if you're going to provide an exemption to our zoning rules, the projects that receive them should conform to these goals, including our greenhouse gas emissions. I just want to share one additional comment. Yesterday, I spoke to the COMITA board. They as you know, they provide incentives for development of all kinds. And in 2026, they've begun providing very generous property tax incentives to nearly any kind of housing, multifamily housing, as long as it's a for-profit organization. So it's very likely that this project will seek those generous property tax exemptions. They're available for even market rate housing. COMITA is not requiring that these developments live up to our environmental commitments in Monroe County. So this is an opportunity for Perinton to show some leadership that Monroe County is not showing right now in meeting our environmental commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2050. So thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Actually brought up a question for the applicant. Are you guys going for LEED certifications? No. Okay.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
You're letting my son speak. He's a scout working on his eagle. And it's so thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, Carlin Alvarado, 8 Parkview Drive. I live behind the 4-story hotel that the previous board approved.
Okay.
May I ask 2 questions of the applicants?
Do you?
Okay.
Yep. And you know what? And if we have time after, we'll try to answer questions. So you
Great.
can ask it to us.
Can I ask it to you to ask them? Telephone.
Yes.
I wanted to ask about the 198 Park Road, the pine trees, and I wanted to know if those are the pine trees that are facing 96 that kind of buffer the homes on Park Road. And then the second question I have related to that is the application is for a 16,700 square foot building. And with 39 units, that's 430 square feet per unit, which that's kind of concerning to me in terms of like living expense for like a living space for a family. So that's just something that popped out on me. All right. Anyway, so Hartwell Heights, Burgundy Basin, Woodcliff, Willowbrook, a hotel, and now this project. That's a lot. I've seen Perinton Town Board approve project after project. No, you guys didn't approve Burgundy Basin, but either way, it seems like it might be happening. What I'm not seeing is anything being done to address the pain that we are already experiencing in this area. There's currently insufficient infrastructure to support the existing traffic we already have and overall poor traffic planning as a whole. I recognize the majority of Fairport and Perinton, including everyone sitting on the board, do not live or drive, I doubt drive, in this area and aren't personally impacted by the results of these decisions. Yet we're still your constituents. And just because our lives are centered and our kids' schools are centered in Pittsburgh and not Fairport, it really shouldn't change the fact that we're still Perinton residents. Right now, when it takes me 45 to 50 minutes to pick my son up from lacrosse practice at school, that's a problem. When it takes me over 30 minutes to take my daughter to her YMCA swim lessons, that's a problem. And that's a serious quality of life problem that is not being addressed by the board. The other day, with minimal traffic, I sat at 2 out of 3 lights in the basin with one of those lights turning twice before I could get through. What is the board doing to address that with the state? Because I know it's a state road. What are you guys doing to try to fix the issues we're already dealing with? What I am seeing is a lot of projects being approved. And we have no idea how any one of those approvals and any one of those projects are going to impact the residents. I keep seeing traffic studies based on current conditions today, not current conditions with 5 other projects in place. Not opposed to change, nor am I against development and reducing my tax burden and also reducing my tax burden as a result. I see that as a net positive, but development needs to be done prudently and with the best interest of those who already live here, pay taxes here, and vote here at the forefront of this town board's minds. Now we can talk about this project. You're being asked to render a vote on this project when you do not understand the full scope of it. As was stated in the PowerPoint earlier, this is just the first residential phase of a project that has not been fully defined and where High Point by RIT is shown to be the inspiration with its retail space, dining, bars, etc. This could very well be a several hundred unit project that Supervisor Townsend said was a concern of hers. We don't know. There's 5 other office buildings there, and this is just the start. One thing I noticed on this project plan is that another light is proposed at Park Road and Pittsburgh Victor Road. That is another light for the residents to sit through anytime we have to go to the grocery store, pick our kids up from school, get on the expressway. These are our day-to-day, these are the items in our day-to-day life that are being impacted. The residents in this area have expressed their concerns to this board over and over again. We and the larger groups that we are members of were not an insignificant part in the changes made to this board in November. If we wanted to live in Henrietta, we would have moved to Henrietta. But Henrietta wasn't Henrietta until people sitting in the position you are today made it that way. Yes, there is currently a desperate need for housing. I don't dispute that, and I fully support new housing developments being built, but with 4 housing projects and a hotel already in the works, it's time for other neighborhoods and communities in the region to share the burden. This board should not approve any more projects on Pittsburgh Victor Road until the impact of the already approved projects can be felt by the residents in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak tonight? Yes, sir.
Bill Corbett, 1256 Marsh Road. I live on Marsh Road, and that's near Bushnell's Basin, the basin development. I started coming to meetings at that time. I've seen lots of developments, been through lots of board meetings, and that includes the Cross Keys, Woodcliff, the basin, and then other ones where the developments became more and more intrusive to the as the process went on. My experience with the special use permit is that it allows for overdevelopment. There are stipulations in the regulations that allow for greater than 40 foot, and we just heard that tonight. Those stipulations or waivers. This is used to allow apartment developments like Cross Keys, who went over 4 stories and had a gabled roof. I mean, I don't know, that was pretty high structure. There are regulations in the code that suggest the need for green space, but are not included in the plans. And this just happened at Thornell development, where that one was very, highly developed, dense pack area. There was no walkways. The development went through and then approved by the board, planning by the board, and then planning board further approved it and then allowed that development. The town board approves the plan, but I'm saying that the planning board then takes that plan and then refines it, or I would say that they are more developer friendly than the town board that I've experienced. You guys are new, so can't point my fingers. The comprehensive mixed use planning was completed by the developers and for the developers. And this allows a densely populated construction. And I'm saying that that's overdevelopment is what we're looking at and what everyone's complaining about and been to the meetings. I suggest refining the regulations to limit some of this overdevelopment in this mixed use permitting approach. We want to limit the buildings of 40 foot with pitched roofs. That does limit it to 2 stories because you can't have that pitched roof and the ceiling heights, so on. Mandatory green space. You have parking spaces, garages. You want to address trucks and access and bus access. You want sidewalks in these areas. You want buffer zones from adjacent buildings, adjacent neighborhoods. You want the Burgundy Basin has, they're producing up 4-story buildings right next to single-story houses. That it's not consistent with the existing developments. So, and then setbacks and buffer areas and so on and so forth. The report that Webster has done a freeze on development. And I think that they're experiencing what we're all experiencing, that this overdevelopment has started to catch up to them. And so as far as this development goes, I agree that it's 2 stories is inappropriate, that it needs more space for parking, needs more space for kids, needs more space for green space, needs gardens, um, away from the road. And this development is the precursor to the next round of developments for the area. So if you allow the 3 stories and the 46 foot, and you're going to get that all the way through, and you allow this density, you're going to get that all the way through this whole, that whole zone and to the rest of the zones. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes, please come up.
My name is Elizabeth King. I live on 94 Potter Place in the Village. I just want to say that I support housing density because, again, it's the way that we mitigate the impacts of climate change and fossil fuel emissions. I would also like to say that any further development that's going to happen in the town of Perinton, again, should pursue the goals of the New York State CLCPA and the County Climate Action Plan. So it should require high efficiency heat pumps and preferably ground source heat pumps, because again, um, this development is going to involve a lot of excavation, so it should be ground source heat pumps. Any parking lots, there's going to be a ton of asphalt. I mean, 55 plus parking spaces is a lot of asphalt. It should be required to have solar canopies on top of these parking lots. Solar canopies. And also I'd like to address what a lot of people have been talking about. There's a ton of traffic in that area, and there is no bike infrastructure proposed in this development. And again, there is no way for people who live in this proposed development to get to the canal trail, to get to Powder Mills Park safely on their bikes. So if the town is going to allow development, they should be also requiring cycling infrastructure, not just expecting people to ride their bikes on the sidewalk, because we all know that that's not safe and that pedestrians do not like that. Cyclists don't like it either. And you should make Route 96 safer for cyclists. You should build actual bike lanes. You should build actual safe crossings for cyclists. This is the way that we are actually going to fight climate change, is by having fewer cars on the road. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Oh,
So I'm, sorry.
no, you're good.
Sorry.
You're good.
Laura Butler. I live at 184 Park Road, my husband and I, and we've lived there for over 40 years. And as we, kind of noted earlier, our property backs right up to the office park.
Okay.
And so some of my comments are going to be a little bit more personal than maybe
Sure.
some of the others. And there are so many things that I wanted to say, but other people have covered them, so my comments will be brief. So my first one is a question. Why is this even necessary in light of Bushnell's Basin going through now? 189 or 190 units? Do we really need 39 more right now? I don't think so. That's my personal opinion. My second comment is, again, our property borders the office park. And so every year we go through this, we get from the office park, we get all this debris that blows onto our property. The snow plow, and it plows all of the snow onto our property, breaks our fence that we have along, our property is quite long behind the office park. Our fence breaks every year and we have to have it repaired. And people just trespass on our property just from the office park, just because we're there, and it's like, I think it's forever wild, but it's not. It's not their property, it's ours. We don't want to put up signs that say no trespassing all along there, because it just, it would ruin the view for everybody. So we don't do that. So that was my second comment. The third comment is 4:30 in the morning. There's a dumpster that's close to our property, and the garbage pickup would you like to be woken up every morning at 4:30 listening, or every once a week, or however many times they come? It's not fun. And I checked with the town before. I said, is there like a noise policy or anything, like time of day? And it's like, no, there's no policy. So I have to put up with it. So it's like, live with it. Now, if you start adding more dumpsters to the apartment building, there's going to be even more noise at some ungodly hour of the day. Okay, so third comment. And my last comment is, oh, no, there's one other one, sorry. Our driveway is long. We already have people thinking that we're part of the park, and they drive their bikes up our driveway, and we question them like, well, what are you doing here? Oh, I thought it was part of the park. It's like, no, we have no trespassing sign right near the entrance to our driveway. So did you not see the sign? Like, did you not see that? So they ride bikes, they walk all the way up our driveway, they drive in our driveway and turn around. So we have to put up with this all the time as it is. And if we have all these people, especially children now, who are going to be very curious, oh, let's go and check this out. And if walking to the park is part of the objective, well, they're going to be walking right by our driveway and say, no, what's this? So, and my last comment, somebody already mentioned this, and I was glad that they did. We are becoming another Henrietta. No green space, lots of buildings, and it's just not a pretty picture.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Sir, come on up.
It's okay. That's okay. My name is Jim Ashmore. I live at 190 Park Road. I actually want to compliment the board to start with. I thought you guys asked a lot of really good questions. And it seemed apparent that you actually care what's going to happen here. And as part of the surrounding area, that's why I think we have a decent turnout tonight, because we're very concerned about the quality of our life. We bought there for a very specific reason. Our property is contiguous to Portal Mill Park and to the office park. We sit between these folks, and so we share a lot of the same concerns. So that's just to start with. I will try not to be redundant. I share the concern about why more residential. It doesn't seem to make sense with all the development that's been going on. And I feel like we don't end one project and we just start another one, because we just got to keep going. The notion that I heard one gentleman answer, that we have great occupancy in our office park. Really? Great occupancy? Then why are we doing this? And I feel like there's some plan that is yet to be divulged about the rest of that office park. It's been referenced a couple times here that, well, this makes sense. Maybe we'll start here and then we'll end up with hundreds of units. And that feels at least uncomfortable. There's these comments about our vision is to do this and our vision is to do that. I would love to see that vision. I don't know what the vision looks like. I don't know what the sidewalks are. I don't know what we're going to do about the safety at the intersections. So I'm very concerned about that. We talked with respect about the barrier and the berms and the trees, which I appreciate. But I live there, and I've seen how the current office park handles the trees. They don't. There's debris everywhere. The fence, they don't. So I would respectfully request that we clean up what happens there to start with, to demonstrate some goodwill before we start saying, oh, we're going to put a barrier fence there, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. There seems like there's an awful lot of kind of arm wave. This is our vision. That's what we're going to do. We need residents. Trends. I didn't see any data. So no data in this presentation. And it would be helpful in the future to have like a laser pointer so we knew what we couldn't see. We couldn't see anything. So
Maybe here's the board.
anyhow, I appreciate what the board is saying. So I think that's pretty much it. I appreciate your time. I really do, and your interest. And please, let's keep the conversation going.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Anyone else? Oh, we got one more? All right, come on up.
Don't want to get left out.
Yeah, right. My name's Nancy Goodwin, and I live on Park Road. And I've been there for 47 years. And so I can walk through a little bit into the office park. And I'll do that once in a while. So I don't have to walk on 96.
Right.
You know, and to say that kids are going to ride their bike on 96, no, no mother's going to let them ride their bike on 96. Or are they going to go down Park Road? It's a cliffhanger. You know, it's very steep going down. And the idea, and I guess going back, someone had said to me that that land there, you know, was forever wild. So I guess there's a limitation on that. So now we want to have a whole bunch of apartments. And I think it was kind of deceptive the way it was advertised with one little tiny sign, you know, up for review, one little tiny building. You know, and now you're talking the whole place is going to be redone. And what about those offices that are on Fisher's Road? Because there's not access from that off of 96, you know, to go into those one on Fisher's Road, because it's a different elevation. You can walk over there, but you can't drive there. So is that going to be part of this too? Fisher's Road?
No, I think it's just this one office building we're talking about. They're proposing right now. Just that where the sign was is just that one office building.
One building?
That's the parcel, that
The
building.
parcel, but not just that one building. It's covering more of an area than that one building, isn't it?
There's more coverage proposed than that building.
Right,
Yes.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's kind of, you know, and like I say, to say that, and to compare it to the basin you don't walk around anymore either. The traffic there is really, we used to go, my daughter doesn't live too far away. We'd walk down with the kids and get a custard from Abbott. You can't even do that anymore. It's really, you know, a lot of traffic and a lot of, you know, so I think this is a lot more than, you know, we probably really need. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy.
Mhm. Bye.
Okay. If there's no more comments, we got one more. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to leave you out there.
No worries. So Brian Becker, 8
Oh,
Real
okay.
Circle. I won't echo a lot of the comments that have already said, but emphasizing that, you know, it's a significant change. And I don't know if this board approved the splitting of the parcel or if that was somebody else, if that was the prior board, but again, that was done under a financial. It was for, I think, to refinance some debt or loans on the surrounding property. So it wasn't, you know, to split the parcel initially. I don't think there's a lot of notice, and it was under the guise of, you know, a financial ability. And now we're into, okay, now we split the parcel and now we want to change the actual use of this. And so I think the whole story again has not been forthcoming from the developer as far as what is intended for this property. So I wanted to know, again, the board, I think the actual splitting of the two parcels originally came under a different guise to why we're here now. I think echoing the sentiments that, you know, exceeding waivers for current exode is just setting a precedent that could lead for the other rest of the development that we've heard now is a potential expansion. I think we need to stand by and not grant waivers on existing codes to set that precedent. There's plenty of development already. I think we should take a pause, let that stuff develop before we continue to expand, as others have echoed. In the plan, I don't know, you know, the environmental impact, you know, it was just a little checklist assessment. It looked to me kind of self-serving where it was representative from Fisher's filling it out. Seems to me, and maybe the board goes through this, it should be an independent third party that does that assessment and not the interested party filling out the environmental assessment. Also, sure everyone in the room is aware, the assessed values of properties all went up significantly. Anticipate also the tax burden of that is going to increase as well, coming in the future. Certainly, with proposed, high density residents, that's an increased stress to the traffic, the utilities, the surface, that's all going to cost more money. And I think some of the residents actually that shift in burden and to pay for some of that stuff is now on the existing residents. For the snow removal, for the trash, for the other utilities and the use in the water and sewer. And I don't know, was there any alternative sites considered? Was that even a consideration to see that maybe the existing use of this should remain as is, and there's a better site available that isn't along this, again, this Bushnell corridor that seems to be getting hammered by all these projects? Any other sites considered that probably might be a better fit? Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Anyone else here? And Chris, it sounds like we have a few folks online. Yep. And if you, do I need to say anything for the folks online, any direction or?
Yeah, I know they're good. Just, can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Hello?
Yep. Go ahead,
Okay.
state your name and.
Yeah, please state
My
your
name
name for us.
is Mary Jane Pia. I live at 8 Pine Needles Drive, which is off Thornell Road and very close to Route 96. For those who have been following development in the Bushnell's Basin area, specifically the historic area, they will recognize that there's a lot of similarities between this proposal and the proposal that's on the table right now for Hartwell Heights. In both cases, as the story starts to unfold at the SUP level and the request is made, can you give us the special permit to build here, we start finding out more and more things that every time there's a hurdle in the long-term process to get approval for building something, we learn more and more things we don't like and find more and more reasons to be concerned. There's, as many people have said, there are too many apartments being proposed for this one little corner of Perinton. Anybody who looks at a full map of the town of Perinton will see that the area we're talking about that runs along Route 96 from about the border with Pittsford out to where this project is being proposed are being very heavily attacked is the way it feels to people who live here with new projects right along the major artery for building more apartments and townhouses. We don't know what's going to happen when the things that have already finally gotten the last bit of approval and been built, how much that's going to affect things. We were told, be very careful. Don't think things are going to be so terrible after this happens. Right now, you're in the worst position because we've got the exit at Bushnell's Basin closed. And everyone is going through Bushnell's Basin because they can't take 490. Well, that may be true, but over the winter, it didn't get any better when the roads were opened and we could use both entrances to the expressway. We keep seeing the same complaints from people today talking about parking. We've been looking carefully at parking in terms of the Hartwell Heights development, and the same thing is going to be even worse here in terms of not enough parking for the residents, much less visitors. How do you get the big service vehicles in and out? If this is going to be short-term rentals, think about all the moving vans that are going to be going in and out, in addition to the garbage trucks and the snowplows and the school buses and the fire trucks. We have to have room for them to get in and out. Somebody ask a question about storage, and it occurred to me, I haven't heard any of these apartment complexes mentioning that they were going to have any basements, and that in a basement there might be places that residents could use for storage. If that's not the case, the garage is where things get stored, which means less parking in garages for cars. And when you look at that, there's also the question of, is there going to be handicap parking spaces available where people need them? If you don't have sidewalks the way they're talking about Hartwell Heights, there are absolutely no sidewalks unless you want to walk in the gutter. Then how are you going to be in a position that you're going to have somebody who has a handicap being able to get from where they finally find a parking space to the place that they're headed? And just one of the board members made a comment tonight. I think it was a board member, but I may be wrong. But it was a comment about the increased amount of garbage that is going to be within, I don't know, a quarter of an acre or half an acre, 2 acres. That that wasn't there before, when you either had vacant land or you had a small office park. If you start putting in residences, then you start multiplying this attraction for animals that we wouldn't necessarily want to have coming into our homes. My final comment is, if the board continues to approve all of these building plans that come into the Bushnell's Basin corridor through on Route 96, people are going to not like to be living here. I've lived here 40 years. I've loved this place, and I would hate to have to leave it. But now that people want to build apartments in my backyard, I'm rethinking it. But who's going to want to buy a house where there's going to be 2 years of construction going on in the backyard? That's another concern for all the people from Park Road who came and talked to you tonight, because it's not going to be a 30 days wonder that they build to this 3-story building. But what happens when people don't like living here and they start telling their friends about how unattractive it is, and that it's no longer the wonderful place that made Perinton, this part of Perinton at least, a wonderful, desirable place, and where people pay well over the asking prices to buy a new home? They're going to stop coming. And I'll tell you what, the property values are going to end up going down. Somebody made a reference to Henrietta. I don't know the difference between on what basis she was talking about, but I would predict that what will happen is the property values will go down. And it means you're going to have to raise taxes, which will make you very unpopular, because you're still going to have to support the same or bigger infrastructure to run the town. I really appreciate the fact that all of you were willing to run for office, and I have great hopes for the future of Perinton with this new administration in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, anyone else?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Josie, can you hear us?
Hello,
Yep, go ahead. State your name and address, please.
my name is Richard Herbison, and I'm here with my wife Jocelyn, and we're down in Virginia right now. And I'll be very brief because we've been here for 2 hours, and we hate to hold you up any longer. But I really appreciate the board representing our as residents of Perinton. 198 Park Road. This Powder Mill Park office complex has been my neighbor for 50 years. And we lived there before that was built. But Jim Ryan and his cohorts have been very good neighbors, did a nice job of planting trees when they first moved in. Unfortunately, all those trees are, all the lower branches have all died off now, and we can see right through into the office park with all the lights that are there and everything. But I've been trying to grow some things back there. But anyway, uh, all of my reservations have really been addressed. I really appreciate the board member that said that he thought that 3 stories was way too high. But when I look at the square footage, the total square footage of the building, and realize that they want to put 39 units in there, I don't even know how. I mean, my home is 2,500 square feet. That doesn't even include the basement where we have ping pong table and audio video room and that kind of stuff. But I don't know how anybody can even live in an apartment that small. I guess the apartments are someplace between, someone said 400 square feet to 600 square feet. Well, 400 square feet is only 20 by 20. 600 is 20 by 30. That's an itty bitty space. Are these considered maybe low income apartments, or is that a typical size? I have a lot of questions about packing that many people into such a small place. But I mean, my taxes recently have doubled on my property, and obviously nobody wants 39 units of little apartments in their backyard, but that's basically what I would end up with. So I'm really, I think both myself, my wife, and my neighbors were all really kind of shocked by this, because we have these nice houses that border the office park on 2 sides. And now we're going to have a whole bunch of apartments coming in there. It's very troubling. And I mean, I'm really opposed to this project, but I wish there could be someplace else for it. But, this is just, this is my reservations and my concern. I don't know if my wife has any other things to say about that, but thank you all very much, both board members and spectators, for addressing this proposal.
Thank you, Richard.
We have another one. The person raised their hand. Can you hear us, Adrian?
Yes, I can.
Go ahead.
My name is Adrienne Cavallero. I live on Selborne Chase in Fairport, but I work in the Powder Mill Office Park. So I'm doubly interested in this project. As a tenant of the office park, I'm concerned that the years of demolition and construction will have a significant negative impact on the businesses in the park. There's already too much traffic in and near the basin, which many of us have mentioned. Hope the board will consider the impact on area businesses. I'd also be curious to know the height difference between the proposed building and the existing Powder Mill Office Park buildings, because I think even though the design of them is very different, I also would hate to have that building just stick out like a sore thumb, and be an eyesore in relation to everything else that's already there. Also, I think it's almost laughable to think that this is going to be a walkable, bikeable area. My office faces Route 96. It's a 4-lane, very, very busy road. So I just would be very careful about that. Thank you for listening. This meeting's gone on long enough. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Adrian.
Nobody else online has raised their hand, Mr. Supervisor. No one.
Great, thanks. Councilman Felino, you had a question?
Is there sidewalk bonds for this? Would that be part of this project? I know some of the other developments we talked about. Would there be like a contribution to sidewalk fund? Or
I don't know if this is in the sidewalk district.
Yeah, I'd have to double check. I'm not
Yeah.
certain offhand to see if it's in a PED zone or school
PED
district,
zone.
but I
That's
certainly
well.
can check that and
Yeah.
see if there would be a
or if we were to
contribution.
institute
Right.
like active transportation corridor, and I know Ginny Meyer left and some other people, but that is a good thought about the state highway and for all these parcels and everything else, trying to get state DOT grant money for a corridor reconfiguration to allow for wider bike lanes, sidewalks all the way through, just even to help calm traffic, even if they don't get used as much.
Mhm.
But to help mitigate that. I think that's in everyone's best interest, but that is where the best outcome is for anyone who's still watching online or might happen to pull up later. That would be, we're in the works to apply for state grants, and exploring that option is what I would advocate for, to add that in a bunch of our roads, especially the state highways 250, 96, 31, 31F. That will help with impacting and slowing down some traffic and actually having a real chance to get there.
Process. Because my kids go to bed right off.
You have to,
I like to learn.
Yeah, the current process right now is you have to cross at the crosswalk at Fisher's Road. Take the sidewalk down on the other side of the road. You have to cross again at Garnsey. And then you can get on the sidewalk again over near Kendrick, and that takes you into the basin, and you have to cross the road again. So my children, whenever they go to on the canal or go for ice cream or anything, they're crossing Route 96 3 times. And actually, I just found out my 11-year-old biking down with her friends the wrong way on 96
Oh my
recently.
gosh.
So we had to address that issue. So there is a lot of action of people trying to get from like our part of the
Yeah.
park that
Already,
way.
yeah.
So there's a need for sidewalks.
Yeah. I believe we put in a grant for a sidewalk. We just put in, applied for a grant for a sidewalk right in that area. So to connect.
Sidewalk grant for, I think it's $3.5 million.
Yes. So there's movement, and thought about that. Do you guys, we've been here for a while, but I want to just open it if you want any clarifications. I know through the process, there will be more time for that. Oh, we have another comment. Okay.
Just a minor one. I know I'm old and I don't walk that fast anymore, but if you want to go for an ice cream from the office park, it's at least a mile. Okay, it's 3/4 of a mile to the expressway entrance.
Okay.
It's a mile down to get ice cream and a mile back. Nobody's walking down to get an ice cream. I mean, there are no services in the neighborhood. You can't get a coffee. I mean, you're not walking out to any commercial stores. You're not walking a mile to, whatever, to get a calzone at Salvador's. You're just not doing that. Nobody walks along there. It's too dangerous between the bikes on the sidewalks and just the traffic, and no, it's not happening. So there are not nearby amenities is all I'm saying.
Thank you. Could we get your name too?
Oh, I'm sorry, James Butler.
James. Okay. Did you guys want to say anything? I just wanted to open back up because there were some questions, and if you wanted to address anything, no pressure too, though.
The approximate 16,700 whatever square feet is actually times 3. So it's 50,000 total for the building. Units range from 1 bedrooms at 850 square feet to 2 bedrooms at 1,250 square feet.
Okay.
So we've got quite a bit bigger apartments than we're thinking.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you for clarification.
Thank you. Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of comments, but just in terms of why this building, this is the oldest building in our portfolio. It's basically functionally obsolete. There's no elevator in the building. It requires several hundreds of thousands of dollars in capital improvements, including the replacement of a new chiller. And as I think a lot of folks are aware, in terms of just office vacancy rates are very high. Rental rates are not there to support those. If it made financial sense for us to redevelop an office building, that would be the most logical option for us. But it's just cost prohibitive, and asking rents in the market are not there to support something like that. We did explore a number of other opportunities or concepts in addition to residential. And we put some good thought behind it, talked to some other, concepts and whatnot, types of tenants, and residential was the one that made the most sense. As we understand that there's, a little bit of a housing shortage in our opinion. I'm sure we can come up with some statistics and whatnot to support that position, but there's some comments also just generally about the rising costs of housing. And I think like having more supply will help, counter that as they continue to increase. To go along with that, the building that we're looking to demo, that one specifically because of, what I had mentioned. It is also the most inefficient building in our portfolio. Generally, the powder mill office buildings are pretty inefficient in terms of electricity usage on a per square footage basis, which, I'm looking at with our tenants and whatnot. So, and then maybe the last thing too is just our vision for the future. When we had met informally and we, talked to the town just generally about like what our vision is, just to be forthcoming about maybe what that looks like long term. I think the intent there was to be transparent. And, obviously anytime if we were to ever seek approval in the future for another development within the park for residential, we would need to come back to the town for special use permit as well, and all the other approvals that go along with it. So I think that pretty much covers some initial comments, but I don't know if you have a question.
Where the other offices built? This was built in 1151 was in the 70s, you said. How about the other ones roughly?
Powder Mill was, 70s and 80s. Across the road, Basin Park. I don't know off the top of my head. I know the Morels developed those, and then
just your
Clinton, and then Corporate Crossings is built around like the late 90s, 2000.
But just this Powder Mill Power Park, newest one is in the 80s then?
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know the exact year. What was it?
Probably early 80s.
Early 80s, yeah. Right around 1980. Yeah.
Okay. So if there's no further comments, I will close the public hearing. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. I'm sure everybody wants to skedaddle. We do have more of a meeting to cover. But I appreciate all of you for coming out. Thank you very much. And thank you guys for a great presentation. Thank you.
James, coming.
All right. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next agenda item. So budget. I'm sorry, Lori.
Is there a motion to refer it or any motion?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. Can I entertain a motion to refer this to the planning board and the conservation board?
So move.
Felino?
Second.
Second, Masterson, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries. Sorry, that was the part that you needed to hear. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Lori. Okay, next up, our next agenda item is authorization of additional amendments to the 2025 budget as outlined in the memo from our finance director. These amendments were identified during the town's external audit fieldwork. Similar to amendments we approved earlier this month, the first set separates interest income in the debt service fund from the interfund transfers from the joint sewer fund. The second set corrects amendments that were approved at our February 25th meeting. Importantly, none of these amendments have any impact on the town's 2025 financial results. This is a housekeeping item to ensure our budget reflects the appropriate classifications. Is there any discussion on this matter? No? Can I have a motion?
Moved.
Masterson, second. Mishler, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that item carries. Next is an authorization request from the Recreation and Parks Department to sell surplus equipment at auction. As outlined in the memorandum from the Commissioner, the department annually participates in a municipal auction to sell surplus vehicles, equipment, and supplies. The request before us this evening is to authorize the sale of the equipment list included in the meeting material at an upcoming municipal auction. The majority of these items have already been declared surplus at the time they were replaced. The remaining items are being requested to be declared surplus as part of this authorization so that proper liquidation can move forward. It is also noted that the proceeds from the sale will be returned to the Recreation and Parks Equipment Capital Fund, and that will be brought to the board at a future meeting. Is there any discussion in this matter? No? Is there a motion to declare the listed Recreation and Parks vehicles, equipment, and supplies as surplus and authorize their sale at auction as presented? Felino.
Second.
Second, Mishler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that carries. Okay, next is a proposed change to the regular town board meeting schedule. As outlined in the memorandum and reflected in the materials included in your meeting packets, beginning in June 2026, The proposal is to move our regular town board meetings to the first and third Monday of each month, rather than the second and fourth Wednesday schedule that has been in place. All regular town board meetings would continue to begin at 7 p.m. and be held here at Perinton Town Hall in the boardroom. In addition, town board workshops will be held at 6 p.m. on the first Monday of every month prior to the regularly scheduled town board meeting. One of the primary reasons for this proposed change is to better align our meeting schedule with the availability of our town attorney. Having counsel present at our regular town board meetings is important to ensure we have a timely legal guidance and support as we conduct town business. Included in the meeting materials is a full schedule showing the proposed meeting dates going forward. In the event a scheduled meeting date falls on a holiday, the meeting has been switched to an alternate date as shown. Are there any questions or discussion about this? Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Mishler, second.
Second.
Masterson, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that passes. Thank you. All right, now we just have updates. I will be quick. I would imagine nobody's watching this meeting right now. Thank you for staying. We have someone here. Oh, that's your dad? Oh my gosh. Hello, Mr. Polino.
There are still people online.
There are people online. Okay, thank you.
This is recorded for posterity now.
Good. Okay, so then I will continue on with my comments and updates. My first update is Perinton Rec is hiring. This is a quick reminder that the Perinton Rec is hiring for the summer, and we are looking for summer camp counselors for our playground programs. It's a fun, hands-on way to spend the summer, work with kids, and it's being a part of an awesome team. So if you have a teen, college student, or someone looking for a summer job, please encourage them to apply or spread the word. For more information, you can contact the rec department and get more information. Second up is the Perinton Quarterly. Should be hitting mailboxes by the end of the week. It has already been printed and it has been sent to the mail house, so they should be arriving in mailboxes any moment. I also want to take a moment to highlight an upcoming day of service being organized by the Perinton Memorial VFW Post. On Saturday, May 23rd, the VFW Post 8495 will be leading a cemetery cleanup at St. Mary's Cemetery here in the town of Perinton. This is the first year of a larger multi-year effort to care for all 9 cemeteries in town, which collectively contain more than 7,400 monuments, many honoring veterans that date back to the Civil War. This is an ambitious and deeply meaningful project, but it relies strongly on community volunteerism, and involvement to be successful. So the VFW is seeking volunteers of all ages and abilities to assist with the cleanup. And they are also looking for sponsors to help offset the cost of supplies. So I definitely encourage people to take a look at that. It is on the VFW's website. To get more information, we'll be sharing it on the town's social media posts as well. That's all I have. Any other board members have updates?
Check out the town's Facebook website and find it in Fairport. Those 3 websites will find you all the upcoming events and how to sign up and register for them.
Awesome. Good. All right. So we don't have any matters of urgency.
Yes.
Okay. So we will be, are you guys good going into executive session stuff?
Ms. Supervisor, public comment?
Oh, public comment. I've done this before, I swear.
Round 2.
Do we have anybody for public comment? Mr. Felino? No.
Great job.
Oh, thank you. Anyone online, Chris?
No one raised their hand, Ms. Susan.
Okay, all right. So we will be going to executive session, so we will adjourn our meeting after that. Can I have a motion to enter into executive session to discuss ongoing litigation matters?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that carries. And we will be taking our executive session into the conference room. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.